Hello and welcome back. Today I'm here with this beautiful woman, and we are here to talk about black and white identities. So let's go.
Hi, my name is Dom, and just a little about me. I am biracial, half black, half white. So that is my ethnicity, and racially, I am black.
Okay. So the statement of racially you're black, can you explain that a little bit already?
Okay, so race and ethnicity are different, and people get very confused about this. Ethnicity usually refers to like your place of origin, your culture, and your race refers to the category that you fall in based on your phenotype or your physical appearances. So my ethnicity is half African American, half white, but my race is black because that's how I present and that's how people view me.
And that's also how society treats you, how you're being seen and received in society, right?
Exactly, exactly.
So how did you come to that conclusion? Like, did you grow up knowing this is what you are, or did you learn that later on in life? Like, how was your childhood as someone with a black dad and a white mom?
So a lot of mixed people have the experience of not feeling black enough. And I definitely did have that at times, but a lot of my experience growing up was feeling too black because I grew up in a predominantly white area. So, and something that ties into this too is the fact that my cousins, a lot of my cousins are mixed as well. So we come in all shades of black, all different types of black, you know. So there wasn't, colorism in my family or any of this, you're not black, stuff like that. It was just, we were all black, all of us, even though we all look so different from each other. And we just, so I was really shielded from a lot of things, um, a lot of issues within the black community, just through my family. So I did always just felt too black because I was around white people all the time. Um,
So, oh, okay.
oh no, go ahead.
So, what role did your black parents like have in you finding and loving your blackness or identifying with your blackness?
So my black parent actually did not play a role in this. The reason that I started loving my blackness was because I moved to a state where it was just completely diverse. The school that I was attending in that state was about 80% minority, and most of the people there were from Africa, the Caribbean, Latin countries, and that's when I started realizing, oh, I like black people. I like being black, like just different things, about my culture and stuff like that. And that's when I really started to get into my identity.
And like your white parent, like your mom, did she talk about your blackness? Like, did she expose you to the black community, to black culture, and those things?
Um, so my mom, there was a few small things that she did. Um, she would read me like some books sometimes, like bedtime stories, just with black kids in it, or buy me black dolls sometimes and stuff like that. But we didn't really have conversations about blackness. My blackness wasn't really spoken about or celebrated. It was just more of a thing like, oh, well, my daughter's black, so I'll buy her things with black people in it. Not actively really trying to teach me about blackness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
Can you?
sense.
Oh,
It
sorry.
does. But like, but on the other hand, I wonder, like, can she even teach you about blackness? Because I'm in the same position like your mom. So I'm asking myself, like, what are we like? What's the right thing to do as a white mother of a black child?
Yeah. So this is kind of a complicated question. A lot of people will assume that once you have children, if you're white and you have children with a Black person, that is the Black person's job to teach a child about Black culture. But that's not true. If you are white and you are not willing to put in the work and the effort to learn about Blackness and be able to teach it to your mixed child, then you shouldn't be having mixed children. A lot of us, when our Black parent is complacent in the racism that comes from our white parent, because mixed children are often created due to fetishes or just two people that we're not thinking about the implications of the discrepancies in race between
I don't see color.
us. Yeah, so exactly, colorblind. So the Black parent is more often than not going to be teaching about Blackness as well. So the white parent still, it's their job to step up, you know? And even if the Black parent isn't always excited to talk about Blackness, it's still important to do it. So, yeah. I think that another thing that is like really important is, as a white woman, you know, you can't know everything about Blackness. So just having positive Black role models in your children's lives. Like for me, when I was growing up, my dad has a sister. My dad is Black, so his sister is Black. She passed away, but for the first half of my life, she was around, and she was kind of like my Black mother. You know, I learned a lot from her that I couldn't learn from my white mother. So having her for a while it just taught me a lot about being a Black woman in this world and how hard I have to work, and just even things like family recipes, just everything. So that is very important, to have other Black adults in your child's life out. It doesn't even have to be the family members either. It can just be Black adults that can have a positive influence.
So do you think that if your mom would have done things differently, she could have taught you those things that your Black auntie taught you? Or are these things that we can simply not teach our kids because we don't feel, experience, and know from us as personal experiences?
No, I think if she learned, she definitely could have taught me a lot of things, especially, you know, being white, she's not going to know what it feels like to be Black, you know, and to deal with racism and things like that. But there are other things like hairstyles or food, just any Black culture, Black traditions that she could learn and could teach me, you know, but she chose not to.
How does that, or how did that affect your relationship with her? Because now that you're aware that she could have, but she didn't, how does that affect the way you see her? Because the other day you said in your TikTok that your mom is always going to be before being my kid's mother, and going to limit the way I understand them, and you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sorry, it cut out a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so you were asking about my TikTok about not being able to connect with my white mother, right?
Like you said in your TikTok that your mother is always going to be a woman first before being your mom, right? So how do these things now that she could have done, but for some reason she chose not to, how does that affect the way you look at her or your relationship with her?
That definitely places a big strain on our relationship. And it's very difficult being mixed, because you always have a lot of cognitive dissonance. Because on one hand, especially me being a Black person, I'm seeing, you know, I'm Black, I'm an activist. That is what I'm fighting for. But I'm being, you know, gaslighted racially by my white family members. So it makes me feel sometimes like, am I doing the right thing? You know, I know that me speaking about Black issues and being mixed and racial identity is the right thing to do, but I question myself sometimes. So with my mom, it's like, she should have learned. There's really no excuse for it. But I still want to give her excuses sometimes, like, oh, maybe she didn't know, and I don't know what the right way to feel is, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I have resentment, but at the same time, I kind of want to back down a little bit, just because I'm like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's me, because I've been gaslit so much about racial issues. So.
But it's not you, right? Like, it's not you.
Yeah. But it's hard. It's very hard to normally remind yourself.
I know. Yeah, I can understand. But the thing is that, to me, I feel from my personal opinion, white family members gaslighting my own children is like they're crossing a boundary that I am supposed to set for my kids on their behalf when they're still too young, or to keep in place when they're older. You are, in my opinion, you're not supposed to stand up against people that are on the side of the oppressor socially, So I feel that normally there should have been protection from, like, as white parents, we are supposed to protect our kids, not only from the outside world, but only from the enemy within. That's also the enemy in ourselves. Like, there's an enemy inside of me that I have to protect my children from, in a way of that I was raised to not see racism. I was raised to not even give racism the power it's supposed to have, because we were all raised in a white society to think that racism is just an opinion that we push in the right-wing corner, that we push very far away from us. We are not raised to own up, to acknowledge that we are all racist by default. So I had to learn that. And I do understand that it's a very, very painful process, because it affects my own blood, But I think if you, as a white parent, if you're watching this and you're a white parent, if you stop there for your own comfort or out of your own comfort, you are neglecting and eventually abusing your own kids. I know that sounds terribly radical, but I've seen my own child coming back from school asking me why. And I can't give him an answer. I can't tell him why people that look like mama do things to him just because he looks more like daddy, And that's, in a nutshell, what a small child thinks about it. He doesn't see the depth of racism. He sees white people hating black people, He doesn't see the depth of it. So that alone is painful. And I see that many white parents stop there. They're like, this is them and this is me. But we have to come to the fact that this is us, collectively. And
oh, go ahead.
It's painful. I do understand that. And I do understand that white parents slip in that self-defense, because we don't want to be that. We don't want to be racist. We don't want that. I don't want to be racist towards my own kids, But having black kids means I have to question, relearn, unlearn, and reflect my behavior every single day. And then videos like that one I told you, I just mentioned, where you said your mom is always going to be a white mother, a white woman first before being your mom. It's deep. It's really deep. Like, so for, in your own opinion, what would have, how would you have grown up more, maybe self-confident or more at peace with your blackness if your mother would have done 1, 2, 3, like.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, this ties into it too. First of all, everything you just said is absolutely correct. And that's the problem that, a lot of us are having with our white mothers. It's like, white people, every white person is racist by default, because that is just the society that we live in. Like you said, it's not an attack on white people. It's not to make white people feel bad. It's not to insult them. It's just the reality of it. It's just the society that we live in. So when white people face that fact, like when my mom had to face that fact, I'm trying to get her to face that fact. What she could have done is realize that, reflect on what I said to her, thought about it, looked into the resources that I was giving her, realized that, you know, she does have some work to do. She needs to unlearn her racism, and we could move forward and work together. But instead, when, you know, my white mother was confronted with this fact that, you know, white people are racist, she just gets very defensive because she doesn't want to be racist. And racist is seen as like the ultimate insult to white people. And instead of, I don't know why they wouldn't just work on not being racist instead of just staying racist and being in denial about it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So, you know, the biggest thing that she could have done for me is just listen. And what she can do even now is still to continue to listen. Because sometimes when I'm speaking to her about things, it seems like she has this idea in her head that she's not racist. And we'll have a whole conversation. I'll ask her along the way, you get what I'm saying? Are you following me? You know, try to relate it back to her. And at the end of the conversation, she's still saying, okay, but I'm not racist, you know? So that's something that she could have done, as well as all white people in general need to understand that they will never have more knowledge about the Black experience than a Black person does. And my mother does not understand that. She thinks that her opinion about Blackness should be held with equal weight to my opinion about Blackness, which it shouldn't, because she's not a Black person. So those are two big things that would have helped bridge the gap in a lot of areas, because those are like foundational things that she could have done that would have helped us in a lot of areas.
Yeah. So as you are now, it helped you now. I think now, from when I look at you, I see someone that's arrived in her identity, in her being, in her entire appearance, and in her entire being. You know, I see you as someone that's like incredibly strong. But on the other hand, I know that, or I'm assuming that the way you had to take to become this strong would have been a lot easier if there was support from your white side of the family, like support and protection and acknowledgement.
Yeah, there definitely would have been, because like I was saying earlier about how I moved to a different state and it was super diverse. So that was when I started coming into my Blackness. That's when I really, really started. But after a year of being at that school, I moved back home and I kind of reverted back into my old ways of trying to be white, because that's what it was for me. I was trying to be white for a long time. It was kind of going back and forth between being white and being the perfect, you know, prototype of a mixed person, you know, loose curls and green eyes and Eurocentric features, all things that I don't have. But yeah, so when I got back home and I was in that same environment around my family and just around predominantly white people, I just really reverted back. So if I would have had that support, I could have kept going. And a lot of people see me in the way I speak and they're thinking that I was raised to be like this and be super pro-Black and just really be comfortable with my identity. But this is all still fairly new to me. I wouldn't even say I completely came into my identity until less than a year ago. So, you know, it's still challenging sometimes, but I am working on it.
And I think your voice is like my son watches your videos and he's just going to be 12 next month. So I think your voice is, I think that you are so humble that you underestimate your voice in such an amazing way that I can't even, because I know I've seen him. I was sitting next to him when he watched your video last week. And the way he related to you, he's my child. I know his facial expressions. I know his body language, you know. He was like, he felt like, this is me. He felt like there was a connection, you know. He was like, and the video he was watching was the video where you said, like you basically said, white people's feelings shouldn't be coddled when being confronted about racism, you know? So, and he was like, that's true. Like, why are white people's fragility more important than my complaints or my acknowledgement of their racism? Like, if I call out another white person or a white person, he said that for their racism, why is their defense and their fragility more important than my feelings that were hurt by their racism?
Yeah.
And that really showed me that your impact is huge. It's huge. And not only on people that are like you, also on people that are like me, that are in the side of raising people like you know, because you give me what my children cannot give me yet because they are still small, you know. 12 is not that small, but he's still a child at the end of the day, you know. Compared to an adult, he's still a child. So, and I think that when white people with black children really want to make a change, they need to listen to people like you that have already gone the way and that are literally going to tell them, if you do this, this is what will happen. But if you change it, the outcome is going to be beautiful, you know, like that. So I really think that, first of all, your content is amazing and it's important. But at the same time, I feel that what you just said now, the pro-black thing and going back to your white environment, are they seeing it like kind of like, oh, Dom, you have changed. What happened?
Oh yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. My mom is just like, the past 8 months, you're a completely different person. I don't even know you anymore. Like, I don't know what happened the past 8 months. Like, and I'm telling her, I'm like, because for most of my life, I've been complacent with your racism. That's what happened. What happened is I stopped letting you do this to me. And I realized what was happening, you know, but they think now that I'm just some crazy person. But I'm not a crazy person. I
I know you're not.
learned, you know, I just learned new information and I just got fed up. I mean, when I saw when in March when Ahmaud Arbery died, I looked at myself in the mirror after that and I was like, what am I doing? I'm sitting here and I'm trying to please white people and they're killing us. They're murdering us in the streets. I mean, we're seeing it. I turn on my television every day, I'm seeing another black person die. And I'm sitting here and I'm searching for white validation still. And that's how little they think of us. They think that our lives don't even matter. And I hold their validation to the highest standard. That was really when I was like, I can't do this anymore. You know, it was really just like it took years of work to get to that point, but when it happens, when you make that switch, you just make that switch. So
Yeah. So the mindset and the knowledge you have now, does it affect the way you relate to random white people?
yes. I have been I have to be very careful around white people is what I've kind of realized. Especially now, because what I have learned is that just because a white person is posting about Black Lives Matter and is speaking about it doesn't mean that they're trustworthy. And in fact, oftentimes it is the white people that are overly posting about it, that are being very performative, that are the ones that are the most racist. And a lot of people have this idea that in order for a Black person to want to avoid someone, they have to be this huge, raging racist that wears a white hood around and says racial slurs every other word. Racism does not always look like that. There's a lot of white people that are extremely manipulative and will be racist to you, gaslight you, and you don't even really realize what's going on until you're like being driven insane. You're like, what is going on right now? I'm feeling this way. I'm trying to speak about it. And they're just like gaslighting me. So I think that's where a lot of white people get confused. They're like, oh, I'm good. I don't say racial slurs. I don't say openly racist things, but it's not always that straightforward. So I have to be careful around all white people, not just the ones that are very obviously racist, all of them, because you never know, you know.
And to add to that, when I because I have come to learn that sugarcoating shit doesn't help matters, to say it the least, you know. So I want my son, all my children, to grow up to be proud of who they are. But I've also understood that the outside world is always, this is just like a pot of noodles, okay? You're boiling noodles or you're boiling rice, and the water, you know, if you don't watch it, it's going to overboil, right? The foam is going to come out, even if there is a lid on it. So if you push the lid down, the foam is still coming out, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how microaggressions, and that's how inherited racism that white people give or force onto their black children is. It's like a water that all their life they're boiling the water, and at one point or the other they keep pressing the lid down, but you can't stop the water from coming out no matter how hard you press the lid down. And I think even me, that I'm white, I am very careful around the white people I associate myself with, not because I could be harmed. I will not. I will just whoop your ass. I don't care. But my kids, I don't want my kids to have influence that they will sit here and maybe they'll randomly throw the N-word and then they're like, oh, I didn't mean it like, you know, like I don't want to go to jail for punching a white person in the throat, to speak the least. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I often get fellow white people telling me, oh, but you are white. Oh, why are you hating white people? I am white. That's why I know. I'm white. That's why I know what we do. I have 30 years of experience of being white in a white country. I know the bloody racist we are because I was raised to be one. It's like that simple. And it has, like you said earlier, it has nothing to do with playing a blame game or pointing fingers. I just want my fellow white people to acknowledge what we've done and how we still enable it and how we benefit from it. Because that's the only way for change. We cannot move forward and we cannot achieve change because at the end of the day, we set this system in place. So I will not point fingers and be like, oh, black people, let's go. It's your turn now. End what we started. That's not how it works. So like the other day I said in my TikTok, nobody in their right mind will tell a victim of rape to stop whining about the rape and go and get their life together. You, by all means necessary, try to protect that victim of rape. You will go the extra mile to make sure the rapist gets convicted, will get jailed, will get justice. As I think the term justice is way overrated because there is no justice for rape. There is no justice for racism. We have to understand that. And this no justice, no peace is bullshit to me because we are talking about 600 years of white silence. So tell me what kind of justice is going to make that up? It's not possible. So we need to stop talking about justice at this point now because maybe 400 or 500 years ago, we could have still be talking about justice. But now, like now it's late. It's way too late. Mm-hmm. So I feel that we should, if we get to the point of really acknowledging who we are, we can make a change. Because if I do something and nobody points it out, I will keep on doing it because I think it's the right thing to do. And that's what white people have been doing. We have been doing this. Just like you said, you let your mother do this all your life, which doesn't mean that you are at fault because she should have seen this before you pointed it out. You know, and this is not as if you people have not been saying this for the last hundreds of years. We've just not been listening. Like we are so quick to be like, racism. Oh, hi. Don't worry, they're not talking. Hi, what, you know? Like, we don't care. We don't care. That's why you said earlier, we don't care. And it's fucking painful to know that once my children will leave my presence, which they are socially not even safe around. That's another point. Yeah. If you are my child now and we walk along the road, you're still not safe with me, even though I'm your mother. And that's deep. It's deep. But it's the truth. Mm-hmm. So they can, like a policeman will still can still stop my child and can handcuff him and take him with him while I'm there. What am I going to do? I'm going to do nothing because he's a policeman. I mean, I'm not going to stand there and be like, hi, take him. But you know, it's the system that keeps us divided like that. So, but like you are now, do you feel that setting your boundaries like is kind of like being ignored by white people or by your white family even?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I want to talk a little bit about talking about justice in the system. We can't expect to get, adequate justice from this system that we have in place. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. They think that we can end racism and keep everything how it is, just take the racism out of it. But we can't do that. We have to start dismantling these systems to get our true justice, our true liberation. Justice is not going to be granted to us by the system that was designed to oppress us. It doesn't make sense. And logically, it can't even work that way, So I think that that's something great to mention, is that we really need to be working on not taking the racism out of these systems, but dismantling these systems, rebuilding them without any racism. Because if racism is at the foundation of something, and this is the analogy that I love to use, which I'm not a carpenter, it's about a house, so bear with me. If you are building a house and let's say that the wooden frame is racism, and you built this house out of wood, out of racism, you want to change the materials of the house. You want to add steel to it, or I don't know, other metals or things like that. And you just keep putting materials on top of the wood. The wood is still going to be in the framework. The racism is still there. So if we keep adding layers, new laws or new systems or subsets or new programs that are supposed to combat the racism within the system, the racism is still going to be within the system. So instead, what we need to do is tear down that house, take that wood out completely, and start from the ground up. And that's how we will get liberation. So this, really important. And I forgot what question you actually asked me. So
before you said that, I also think when we're looking at America, particularly America, because I find it kind of absolutely ridiculous when white people are like, oh, when they start defending it. Meanwhile, America was literally founded on racism. That's like, I don't know how anybody in their right mind can argue about this, because not only did it take America 89 years to free slaves after being founded, it was founded by white people. Yeah. While Black people were in shackles. I mean, we have to let that sink in for a minute, Yeah. A country that was built while Black people were in physical shackles is never going to give you no liberation. It's not going to happen, because they are built on the blood and the back of Black people. So, like, if I don't even, I can't wrap my head around it that somebody that is breathing, that's capable of making their own living, cannot comprehend that. And that is why I'm 100% sure that white people know, but don't want to acknowledge it, because we don't want our privileges taken away from us. We don't want a system that gives us equal rights, everybody. Because when we are looking at equal rights, how are we going to achieve that? And it starts with freeing Africa as a whole. It starts with the visa system, with currencies, with labeling Africa a third world country, which it is not. It's not. First of all, it's not a country. Secondly, it has nothing to do with being the third world. Then it continues with white people claiming to be in any way superior. How did we even get here? We've only been here for 8,000 years. How can we be superior to anybody? Normally what we are supposed to do is take the system, tear it down, throw it away, burn it, and start from afresh. Have Black women, Black men, Mexicans, indigenous people, everybody found the system together, not all this cuddling each other, like you said, put a new law here, put a new law there. Meanwhile, the bloody foundation is still racist. Oh, but my question was, how do setting your own boundaries affect the relationship to your family members? Like, are they like, oh, come on, Dom, stop being insensitive, or stop being so oversensitive about this? I didn't mean it like this. After all, I'm your uncle, cousin, auntie, whatever, I love you. I can't be racist, that kind of thing,
Yes. You are just describing my life, aren't you? That is, and yeah, this is just like the biggest problem that I'm having with my white family members right now. And what is used against me a lot is the angry Black woman stereotype. That is always used against me. So whenever I want to confront racism, and I'm just trying to like be like, hey, my feelings are hurt because you said this, automatically, Dom, you're being too aggressive. I can't talk to you. You're being too aggressive. My white family members, they're like, I need to step away from the situation because you're just too aggressive for me. And I've had this happen over text message too. How can, anyways, so that happens. And then that obviously already makes me, upset. So that's adding even more racism onto the racism that I'm already upset about. So obviously it's going to make me even madder, and I try to explain to them, what was racist. And it's just, you're taking it the wrong way. It's not like that. They didn't mean it that way. And my mother's favorite thing to say to me is, oh, well, your family, they love you. They love you. No, they don't. Because if they can't love my Blackness, they don't love me. Because you can't separate that from me. You can't say, oh, I love you and you're also Black, but please don't like bring that around and don't talk about racism and don't do any of that. But like, you can still come, just hide yourself, hide your identity. I can't do that. If you don't love my entire identity, then you don't love me. You know what I'm saying? So that is a really big thing. Me being considered too emotional and being taunted. That's the thing. Like, if I had a problem with one of my, white family members saying the N-word, I asked them repeatedly to stop saying it, and they're just gonna keep saying it, like it's things like that. It's if I tell you that something's upsetting me, you not only tell me that I'm doing too much, you go out of your way to do that thing again, just to see how I'll react to it. And that makes you feel crazy. Like the way that my white family treats me sometimes in regards to race, it literally makes me feel like I'm going insane. So, and I keep, emphasizing that feeling because it is a really bad feeling. And people, if you've been gaslit before, not just about race, but about anything, gaslighting is really common in abusive relationships, emotionally abusive relationships, because it is emotional abuse. You know that feeling. You know that when somebody's doing that to you, when somebody's telling you that your feelings don't matter or you're making something up, when you know it was true, you don't even know what to do because you can't even argue with somebody who's lying. So that is not a fun time. But yeah, you're exactly right. That is how they treat conversations about race.
What you said is very interesting because in the last maybe, let's just say like maybe 4 weeks, I've constantly, both in TikTok, in Instagram, YouTube, had people coming for me in such a disgusting way. And unfortunately, some of them were Black too, accusing me of contributing to the erasure of dark-skinned Black people in the media by labeling my kids Black. Meanwhile, the plain fact is, we live in Germany. We live like a little bit about Germany, Frankfurt, which is also the big airport. We live just like 45 minutes from there. So although we live in a village, but we still, our neighbor across the street, she's Black too. She's from Sierra Leone. Her mother is white. So they are not like the only ones, but they are still a minority. Yeah. However, here we have our own premises. We don't have neighbors directly in our house whatsoever, but they still, when I went to register my second son in daycare, when he was about 1 year, here we have to register them ahead of time. And he's just like maybe 2 shades darker than me. He's very pale skinned. But he has four type of hair. Like, his hair is very curly. He looks like he's the carbon copy of his dad, just that he is very pale skinned. When I came to register him in the kindergarten, the first thing the woman said that it's so nice to finally have a Black child in the kindergarten. I literally lost my shit that day because I was like, are you going to crush her now and for the rest 4 years of your child's life be having this woman on your ass, or are you going to accept it? I did not accept it. I just told her that, see, he's not a gift. He's not something that you can present to the outside world and brag about. He's not something like you can present on a silver platter, like, look, it's so beautiful. We have this here. Come and see it. He's a human being. And you emphasizing his blackness in this manner is not cool. Don't do that again. And the next thing that happened, I don't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I am not racist. I love Black people. I was about to lose my mind, you know? So when I leave the house with them, I have been complimented for adopting children. When my daughter was not born, I was pregnant with her. We went to the mall. My son, he was never the stroller type of child. He was always, I always carried him on my back. And in my daughter's case, my belly was literally not even there. I was heavily pregnant with that girl, but there was basically no belly. Whatever, I don't know. So people didn't know I was pregnant until, woo, she was here. So we were like in the mall, we were walking around, you know, and an elderly lady told me that she's always moved to see humanity have rule in our society. And I was like, excuse me? It's so beautiful that I'm giving this child a happy home. I looked at my son, I was like, what? I didn't even get it. I did not get it. Yeah. He looked at me, he was like, Mama, what is she talking about? So I said, I don't know. She was like, oh, but is it not nice of you to adopt him? I looked at her, I was like, are you stupid? Because this is the first thing that came out of my mouth. I was like, what? And this boy, I don't know if you have seen his picture, he looks exactly like me. Like he has my face, everything. You must be a special type of fool to think that this boy is adopted. So you said this only because he's of darker complexion. So in essence, what I'm saying is when I leave the house with my kids, my privilege doesn't extend to my children. They are not like, oh, don't worry, we will give them only 50% of the racism. They are half white. You know, society is like, where are you from? Oh, your German is good. They are labeled Black. And then it hurts me to see when people are like, oh, stop calling your children Black. They are biracial. They are mixed. They are this, they are that. Because society doesn't give them the room to. So how do you deal with that? I mean,
yeah. You're completely right. The first thing that people misunderstand is that mixed is not a racial category. It does not exist. Ethnically, yes, you can be biracial. Mixed. Can you racially be mixed? No. And, you know, a lot of people think that this is how it goes. White people, mixed people, Black people. But it's not. It's white people, and then it's all shades and types of Black. You know, that is the categories that it is. Black people sometimes think that when we are identifying as Black, we're trying to identify as dark-skinned Black people with type 4 hair and all Afrocentric features with full Black ethnicity. That is not what we're saying. We're saying that racially, we are perceived to be Black. Now, something that doesn't make sense to me is I feel like we are excluded from Blackness because we're half white and not necessarily all the time because of how we physically look. Because there are fully Black people that have a lighter complexion than me, that have features that are not Eurocentric, but are accepted under the white beauty standard. Because, you know, Eurocentric, Afrocentric, linguistics, I know. But yeah, they do have those features that are accepted. And they have loose curls, but ethnically, they're still fully Black, but they can be accepted. But I don't understand that. I don't understand why someone who does look Black, you know, you can tell that I'm Black and I experience anti-Black racism. How are you telling me that I'm white still, you know? Ethnically, yes, I am white, but no one's gonna come up to me, like you said, and say, oh, you're half white, so I'm only gonna be half as racist to you. What they might do is be a little less racist because I'm light-skinned, but that is colorism. That's not because I'm mixed. That is just because I am fair-skinned. And anybody can benefit, well, not anybody can benefit from colorism, but mixed people and fully Black people can both benefit from colorism if they have light skin. So that benefit that I have, that privilege that I have, is from colorism. It is not just from being mixed. Now, I do have access to white privilege sometimes, you know, and that's something that I've talked about a little bit. A good example of that is the fact that, like, both my grandfather and my mother are, you know, they're both white, and they are alumni of the university that I currently attend. The opportunity to go to college and gain generational wealth, and just to have generations and generations of family that went to the same university, is white privilege, you know, because Black people, we weren't even allowed to go to school for the longest time. So I got alumni points. In that instance, I had access to some white privilege, but I don't have white privilege on my own, you know, and that's what people don't understand. I don't have any white privilege. Do I have some situations where white privilege can benefit me? Yes, but on my own, I will never have it. So how I deal with people questioning my identity is just, at this point, I don't deal with it anymore. I can only repeat myself so many times about the fact that race and ethnicity are not the same thing. And I've gotten to the point on my channel where it's like, if if you're telling me I'm not Black, if you're in my comments, you're just doing that to be hateful and malicious, and you'll be blocked, because I'm not going to deal with it, you know? And no matter what anyone says to me, that's what you have to remember. No matter what anyone says, I'm still Black. If some random person wants to come up to me and tell me that I'm not Black, they can do that. I really don't care, because it doesn't change anything, you know? So that is something that is very difficult for a lot of us to overcome, is to just be strong in our stance and know our true identity based on the true definition of race, not the one that has been whitewashed, not the one that people are making up to fit their agenda, the true definitions of race.
But I also think that that system is very problematic, because white people throughout history have been adapting the term white and the whiteness to fit their own narrative. So when we look some years back, I can't really say how long back, Irish people weren't classified as white, but they are now. Like when you look at Jewish people, when you look at their appearance, their skin tone, they are white, but the system doesn't label them white. Spanish people or Italians are classified white under the racial white, but when you look at them and their experiences in Germany, for example, they might experience discrimination because they have a darker complexion, you know? So the narrative white is being gate-kept by white supremacy to make sure that white remains as white as possible. But on the other hand, white supremacy is like, oh, Black comes in all shades. But technically and truthfully, white also comes in many shades. Like if you look at me now, my white is different than a white woman from Russia, or a white woman from Finland, or a white woman from Croatia, or from Spain, you know? We might not all look the same. Just like Black people can be dark-skinned Black, you know, can be lighter-skinned Black. It's like that with whiteness too, technically. Like when we are looking at the human part of it, you know, the technical, actual, the way we look. But the system is like, you're only white if you're white. If we see you white, you know, and if you're anything other than that, we like to push it away from us so we can gatekeep that system of white supremacy and white privilege for those that deserve it, falsely, of course, in the eyes of the people that set the system in place, which is also very problematic, because people like you should be comfortably sitting down and be like, I'm white, and nobody should be like, excuse me, I can see you or not. You know what I mean? Like systematically, everybody should have the right to claim all of their heritage. Not that, because we are attaching whiteness to what the system says is white, you know? That's why nobody will look at you and like, oh, you're half white. Don't worry, you're good, you know? So when you come up and you be like, I'm white, people will be like, oh, no, you're not. You are not white, you're Black. That's because of what the system tells us what whiteness is. And that's also racism, because we should all be able to claim because if you say you're Black, nobody's going to ask you anything again. They're cool with that. You don't get to claim your whiteness, because it's systematically it's done like that. That's also why I have had people tell me, oh, how did you stoop so low to bring shame on your race to mix with a Black person? Like, how was I that stupid to dirty my whiteness with Black blood? I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, I have a different thought process about all of this, though.
No, I would like to hear it if you don't mind sharing it, though.
No, I think that what we're seeing right now is actually an expansion of the construct of whiteness. Whiteness.
That's what I was supposed to say. Expansion. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm sorry. English is not my first language. Expand. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We're seeing, people. Whiteness is, before, like you said, it didn't include Jewish people or maybe Russian people, because whiteness was based, from what I am, sorry, I'm thinking. From my understanding of race, whiteness was originally based in not only the physical appearance, but also that ethnicity, that blood, So that's what people were thinking about. But in reality, that's not what race is. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like people of different ethnicities that had white skin, like you said, were not included, but now they are, because it was too hard. It's too hard for people to look at somebody and be like, oh, well, you look like you're 35% English and like 25% Finnish. No, you're just white. You're a white person. You have white skin. You have features that are Eurocentric. But like you said, white people from all around the world, they have very different features and they can look different from each other. But race, the concept of race is different everywhere else than it is, here in America. So that's why there is such discrepancies. Like you were saying, like if I go to Russia and I look at people from Russia, they don't look like the white people here, like with their facial features, but they still have white skin, so they're still white, and that's
what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah. The problem of race is just that it's just poorly designed. It's just not a good, and that's why we're having so many problems. And people are getting mad at people like me, people that are mixed or people that are racially ambiguous. Why are you identifying as this? You're erasing parts of communities. I'm not doing anything. The system of race was just poorly designed. And I'm just living in a society and I'm just telling everyone how I navigate my life in this society. And with people telling me, like, what I've learned about my identity and what people say about my identity is they will say anything that I say that I'm not. So if I say, like, if I did say, oh, I'm black, there's always gonna be people saying, no, you're not, you're white, say you're white. If I said I'm white, like you said, there'll be people saying, oh, no, you're not, you could never be white, you're black, you're fully black, what are you talking about? So whatever I identify as, people are racist and they're gonna try to tell me the opposite just to be racist. That's it. Exactly. So, but in reality, and that's why my identity is what I say it is. Because I have so many different experiences with so many different people, and I know when people are just coming at my identity just to be racist towards me. But in reality, in my real life, not just random trolls online, I'm treated as a black person, So just because some troll online thinks that I look white doesn't mean that I look white in real life, because I don't, Yeah. So, but yeah, I know it's that issue is like, there's just so much nuance to the concept of whiteness. But it can't hold up for that much longer,
Definitely
and
not.
That's why we're seeing people that are clearly people of color trying to be pushed into this category of whiteness, because whiteness has realized that they can't hold the power with such a small group like they have for so long. So they keep adding more people. Oh, well, now Jewish people can be white. Well, now Russian people can be white. Well, now people that have white skin and are from Latin countries, they can be white too. you know? So they just keep grabbing people and giving them white privilege because they want to have as much power and as much behind them as they can, while at the same time, like you said, gatekeeping whiteness. So they're expanding it, but also gatekeeping it at the same time, which is very,
fake. Oh my God.
It's difficult. It's difficult to
Also,
follow.
Like, yeah. So the other day, a woman accused me of denying my children their blackness, their whiteness, which is so ridiculous to me because I am white. I am white. How am I denying my kids their whiteness? You know, all I'm doing is I am telling them the truth about what they're going to expect when they leave our house, you know. So, but what I think is also important, like I do educate my children on colorism because I want them to know that systematically they are seen as black. But if they are in the picture and a dark-skinned black person is in the picture and they're both applying for a job, they are most likely to get the job, not because they are better qualified, but simply because they have light-skin privilege. So that's because dark-skinned black people suffer from colorism on literally like the beneficial side of my kids, you know, people like my children. So, and I think by educating them on that, that's at one point or the other going to dismantle that kind of like preference that the system has. Like everybody wants to be like, oh, we are so inclusive. Oh, we hire black people. We have black models, and then they hire children, people like my kids. That's beautiful because they need representation too. But dark-skinned black people cannot feel represented with people like my kids in the media. But people like my children are going to feel represented when they see dark-skinned people in the media because they connect to them on the level of that blackness. So I think blaming like people like me is an individual blame that doesn't hold power because I am not the system, although I am part of it, but I am not the system in its entirety. You know, I cannot change that by telling my kids, oh, don't worry, you have white. You know, that's like allowing them to be stabbed in the back.
Yeah. And the thing too is I hate when people say that to me. You should be proud of your white side. White pride.
Please,
that is
what?
literal. I said, yeah, white pride. That's literal white supremacy. Like,
Thank
what
you.
do you mean white
Nice.
pride?
No.
That is the white supremacy. So you're telling me to be a proud boy, a proud woman, I guess, like to be proud of being white.
A proud colonizer? They're telling you to be a
like,
proud colonizer? Oh, thank
exactly.
you, no.
That doesn't make any sense at all. You would never tell a white person to go be proud to be white because there's nothing to be proud about. There's no white culture. So what should I be proud about? You know? So that I hate that. That is my biggest pet peeve. So what, you're telling me that I should become a white supremacist because I'm only half black? Like, is that what it should be? No, not at all. So yeah, but you're right. And that is another thing with the light skin privilege that you're talking about, is a lot of mixed people don't want to admit to having light skin privilege. Granted, not all of us do, obviously, because not all of us are light skinned, but a lot of us are. And I feel like with mixed people, sometimes they think that if they have light skin privilege, that makes them have white privilege. But people need to understand that white privilege and light skin privilege are not the same thing. And if you have light skin privilege, you could still be black at the same time. You know, if you have white privilege, you're not black. But if you have light skin privilege, you're still black. It's just because you're a lighter shade, you know? So I don't know why that's such a hard pill to swallow. I mean, I guess it's kind of the same way as when you tell white people that they have white privilege. You know, they get really mad about it. Some light skin people.
I was poor. I grew up in poverty. I don't have white privilege. I suffered all my life. I worked for everything I have. I don't have white privilege. Yeah, Tiffany, I know, we know you don't. Yeah, because they live in denial, you know, in big time denial. But I think to come to an end, what is if you were to give a message to white mothers in particular, to do better, what's your message? Like, that if you do this, it will be beneficial for your child.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, come to my TikTok and my YouTube because I can give you advice
Yes!
if you are a white parent. That is my first piece of advice because I will help you. And secondly, I would just say, listen and learn. The best thing for you to do is to listen, because right now the problem I'm having, and this might be a little bit more relevant if you have older children, but I'm having this problem with my little one. She's just not listening to me. She's just not listening. If a Black person is telling you that something you're doing is making them uncomfortable, that something that you're doing is racist, just listen, listen and learn. And I would say, just for all age groups especially, make sure that you are talking about your child's Blackness. Black is not a bad word. Talk about it, celebrate it, talk about how beautiful it is, how excellent it is, and just try to really get that association in your children's head. When your child thinks Black, they should think beautiful. They should think excellent. They should think intelligent. When you say Black, your child should only be thinking of positive things after that. And that's what you need to start doing, making sure that Black is seen as a positive, a thing to celebrate. So, yes.
That's a beautiful summary. Yeah. So that being said, I think we have said a lot. So if you're a white parent, if you're anybody watching, go and follow her wherever. Follow her on TikTok. I'm going to tag your TikTok, your Instagram, your YouTube down below so that people can actually follow you. And that being said, I'm beyond grateful for you to have taken your time to be here today, such a sensitive topic, and to be that open with me. Like I said earlier, your voice is so important, and I wish there could be like a microphone and it will make your voice 1,000 times louder. I'm grateful for people like you because you help me learn, you help me reflect myself. And if you're a white parent watching this, stop defending yourself. Literally stop. It doesn't take you anywhere. Self-defense is misplaced in this situation. Like she said, listen. If you truly love your kids, listen and learn and unlearn, especially unlearn, and be ready to not only, okay, and then tomorrow you still go back to being a racist piece of shit. So that doesn't help. Exactly. So that being said, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.
Until next time.